G'day legends. In this video, I want to share with you the magic of 1176 style compression. 1176 compressors are easily one of the most used and most loved compressors out there. And the reason being, they're pretty easy to dial in and they achieve a great sound. You can really control a dynamic range with an 1176, but you can also add character and excitement with it as well. Now, for all of the demonstrations I'm going to show you in this video, we're going to be using the Echofix EFP5. This is a pedal that was recently brought out by Echofix. It is a studio grade compressor in a pedal format. So you might have been looking at that like, hey, that's a guitar pedal. But yes, it is a guitar pedal. You can put it on your pedal board, use it with guitars, basses, any kind of instrument that you can plug into it. You can use it that way as well. But you can also use it as a piece of outboard gear, as an insert with your audio interface, send sounds out of your DAW, process them through this and back into your session. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, all of the examples that I'm going to show you, all of the settings, that's fully transferable to 1176 style plugins, any other 1176 rack compressors. It's all the same because this is an 1176 compressor just in a smaller format and it absolutely sounds phenomenal. So for our first example of where 1176 style compression can be really magic is on drum room mics. So I love the transformation that has on room mics. Have a listen to it in the context of the full drum mix as we bypass it off and on. Just listen to the energy that it brings to the drum kit. Just sounds so cool. So that's with a 20:1 ratio, which is basically like a limiter, fastest attack and release times, which means that as we push the signal in, it's literally just going to crush it down, but it's also going to bring everything up really fast at the same time. And that's why it brings out all of the energy of the room and just sounds massive. If you're enjoying this video, the best way that you can show your support is to hit that like button right now and leave a comment below. Let me know one of your favorite ways to use 1176 style compression. And let me know, what do you think of the Echofix EFP5? For our next example, let's check out the famous all buttons in mode on the full drum mix. Have a listen to how cool this sounds, just crushing the drums, but then also blending it in parallel, how much energy it brings to the kit. I love the sustain and the dirt that it adds to it, that saturation and grit. It's really cool. So for our next example, let's try this out on some acoustic guitar. Now, acoustic guitar is kind of a funny one. I usually don't love heaps of compression on an acoustic guitar. So pay attention to what we're doing here is we have it in a 4:1 ratio. We have a slow attack time, and I've slowed the release time down a little bit so it's not really aggressive, because the faster the release time, the more saturation and almost distortion you can bring out of a sound. Now, I don't particularly love hearing that on acoustic guitar unless I'm going for a kind of dirty sound with it. For this, I want to keep the acoustic sounding natural, but I want to level it out and make sure that we can hear all of the nuances of the playing. So this is where the high pass filter is really important so that the compressor doesn't react so heavily to the low end of the acoustic guitar, and also the mix knob so we can get that sweet balance between the dry and the wet signal. Check it out in solo, but then also have a listen to it in the context of the mix. And here, as we bypass it off and on, it really does help the guitar to sit in the mix a lot nicer and be a lot more audible and clear. So for me, a setting like that is really magic. It glues the acoustic together, but it doesn't sound over compressed at the same time. Of course, bass guitar sounds great through an 1176. I mean, most things sound great through an 1176. But what I like about bass is you can really control the dynamic range. It's a great compressor for just controlling dynamics, things that are poking out and really soft. You can just bring all of that together really easily. But I like the attitude that it gives the bass too. I've got the attack time pretty quick. It's not the fastest because I still want to let some transient through. I've got that fast release time just to balance out all of the playing, and it's just giving the bass what you would call a spanky sound because it's grabbing it, but it's still letting a bit of transient through. You get a little bit of pluck, and it just gives the bass a nice attitude. So I love the flavor that adds to the bass. So before we jump into our next round of examples, I just want to run you through all of the parameters and settings of the Echofix EFP5 so you can see how true it is to the classic design of an 1176, but how it also contains a couple of extra awesome additions. So we have inputs and outputs. With an 1176, you push the input to get more compression and then you balance it out with your output. We have variable attack and release times for shaping the compression. We also have a high pass filter, which is a great feature to have on here. It lets the compressor ignore the low end below the threshold that you set, and that way you can get some smoother compression if you're working on bass heavy content. We also have a mix knob, which lets us blend between the wet and the dry signal. We've got all of the typical ratios that you would expect for the one: 8:1, 12:1, and 20:1. And you can also do the famous all buttons in mode. We've got a couple of different metering options: view to gain reduction, a +4 output, a 0 dB output. And you can also turn the VU meter off if you want to, but I don't know why you would want to because it just looks so good. We've got our pedal bypass here, but we can also bypass the compression circuitry with this one here, and that allows us to use this as a dirt box because the signal still passes through all of the circuitry. It just doesn't get compressed. We've got a 1/4 inch and an XLR input. We have a gain boost switch, which is really cool if you want to push the signal in harder to the compressor. You can get some really colorful sounds out of it. Sidechain input, we have a balanced XLR output and an unbalanced 1/4 inch output. There's a mod switch on the back which allows you to switch between normal attack and release times to slower attack and release times. And to power this thing up, it just requires a 9-volt power supply. Now this next example is just a really cool feature that you can do with the EFP5 is you can turn off the compression circuitry. And you can use this as a saturation dirt box. So basically you just drive the input and the output and you can get different flavors of distortion. And as I mentioned before, there is a gain boost on the back. So we're going to flick this in and overdrive some bass. So check this out. check out saturating a bass drum and a snare drum with this. That's an awesome feature, and you can get some creative sounds out of it, not just compression. Now, as I said before, part of the magic of an 1176 is how fast it is, how you can control dynamics really easily. So I've got an acoustic guitar here that's doing a lead line, and it's very all over the place, some big plucks because, you know, acoustics are pretty dynamic, and there's bits that come out of the mix really nicely and then they disappear into the mix. Have a listen to how this just reins it in, keeps all of those softer parts audible for us, and brings all of the loud, plucky stuff down, so it's just a lot more balanced. For this one, we're doing quite a fast attack time to grab those transients, fast release time to balance it all out, and a 20:1 ratio, which is basically like a limiter, because we're just trying to control these peaks and bring up the lower stuff and just get that dynamic range brought in together. I love how easy it makes it to control that dynamic range. We no longer have things jumping out and being jarring and then sounds getting lost because they're too quiet. We have a nice balanced performance there that just sits in the mix way better. And of course, one of the most magic places for an 1176 is on vocals. It's just such a great compressor for controlling the dynamics of vocals, but also for adding color. It can really thicken up a vocal. It can also help a vocal to stand out and shine a lot better in the mix. You can take all of those little quiet nuances that can get lost and you can bring them up really forward in the mix. It just sounds great. You would have been hearing 1176s on pretty much every song you've ever heard. They're all over everything. They really are like the vocal compressor that most people use. So for this example, so you can really hear the magic of what this is doing to the vocal, we're going to listen to the raw vocal without the compressor, and then we're going to listen to it compressed, and then we're going to listen to the raw vocal in the context of the mix, and then we're going to listen to the compressed vocal in the context of the mix. And you'll hear exactly why this is magic on vocals.
Working in the rain with holes in your boots, driving dusty roads in rusty old utes, chasing down a stray in the midday sun. Working in the rain with holes in your boots, driving dusty roads in rusty old utes, chasing down a stray in the midday sun. Whistle up the dog and his ears go back, takes off like a bullet as a whip goes crack. Whistle up the dog and his ears go back, takes off like a bullet as a whip goes crack. Working in the rain with holes in your boots, driving dusty roads and rusty old utes. Working in the rain with holes in your boots, driving dusty roads and rusty old utes.
So in solo, you could definitely hear that it thickened the vocals up, it made them sound nice, it leveled them out. But it's not until you put it in the context of the mix that you really hear just how magic this thing is, because without it, the vocals they're ducking in and out, they're getting lost. They are not there in the mix. But as soon as you put this on, the vocals are there, they're up front, they're constant, they're consistent, and they just have a lot of lovely character about them. 1176 compression is just magic on vocals. So that's a couple of ways that I like to impart the magic of 1176 style compression into my mixes. And whether that is a plugin format or whether it's hardware, all of those settings are totally transferable between the two and you'll get similar results. But if you have been thinking about picking up a hardware compressor for your studio, then the EFP5 might be a good fit for you. You don't have to have racks to use this thing. It can sit right on your desktop. It sounds phenomenal, as we just heard. I'm going to have links to this in the description below. Make sure you go and check it out, read up the specs on it, see if it is a good fit for your studio. And if you do pick one up, I know you won't regret it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to support this channel, hit those links in the description below. Go and visit my website. I've got a bunch of drum sample packs, mixing courses. There's also a merch store. Picking up any of that stuff really does show some big support and helps go towards making the content on this channel. If you've been wondering how to set up the perfect mixing template, then check out this next video coming up.